Hello and welcome back to this video. In this video we will learn a bit of asynchronous JavaScript. In an upcoming section we will learn in detail about the asynchronous behavior in Node. But a quick introduction about asynchronous JavaScript is necessary, and that quick introduction is what this video is about. We are going to understand that what and why of async JavaScript. Now the first point to understand about JavaScript is that in its most basic form, JavaScript is a synchronous blocking single-threaded language, and the 3 points mentioned here are really important. Let's understand what that means. The first point is that JavaScript is synchronous. It means if you have two functions which log messages to the console, the code executes from top to bottom with only one line executing at any given time. In our example on the right side, we see A is logged before B. The second point is that JavaScript is blocking, which is because of its synchronous nature. No matter how long a previous process takes, the subsequent process won't kick off until the former is completed. So if function A has to execute an intensive chunk of code, JavaScript has to finish that without moving on to the function B. Even if that code takes 30 seconds or 1 minute, you might have seen this happen in the browser when a web application runs in a browser and it executes an intensive chunk of code without returning control to the browser. The browser can appear to be frozen. This is called blocking. The browser is blocked from continuing to handle user input and perform other tasks until the web app returns control to the processor. And the last point is single-threaded. A thread is simply a process that your JavaScript program can use to run a task, and each thread can only do one task at a time. Unlike a few other languages which support multi-threading and can thus run multiple tasks in parallel, JavaScript has just one thread called the main thread for executing any code. This brings us to the point that in its most basic form, JavaScript is synchronous, blocking, single-threaded language. But as you might have guessed already, this model of JavaScript creates a huge problem. What if we have a task to retrieve data from the database and then run some code on the data that is retrieved? We have to wait on the first line for the data to be fetched, and when the data finally comes back, we can resume with our normal execution. But that task could take 1 second or even more. And during that time, we can't run any further code. And JavaScript, if it simply proceeds to the next line without waiting, we have an error because data or response in this case is not what we expect it to be. So we need a way to have synchronous behavior with JavaScript. We need to have a asynchronous behavior with JavaScript. And the question is how we can cater to asynchronous programming in JavaScript. Well, as it turns out, just JavaScript is not enough to achieve that. We need new pieces which are outside of JavaScript to help us write asynchronous code. In front end, this is where web browsers come into play, and in backend, this is where Node.js comes into play. Web browsers and Node define functions and APIs that allow us to register functions that should not be executed synchronously and should instead be invoked asynchronously when some kind of an event occurs. For example, that could be the passage of time, the user's interaction with the mouse, data being read from a file system, or the arrival of data over the network. This means you can let your code do several things at the same time without stopping or blocking your main thread. This is pretty much that what and why of asynchronous JavaScript. To summarize, JavaScript is synchronous blocking single-threaded language. This nature, however, is not beneficial for writing apps. We want non-blocking asynchronous behavior, which is made possible by a browser in the front end and Node.js on the back end. The style of programming where we don't block the main JavaScript thread is fundamental to Node.js and is at the heart of how some of the built-in module code is written. Thank you very much for watching this video.